This is Jackie from Prep Scholar TOEFL. In this lesson, we're going to talk about one kind of question that you will see on the TOEFL reading section. These questions are easy to recognize. You will be given a section from the reading passage marked with 4 squares, like this. The burrow system or den, in which Spectabolus stores its catches of food and materials, has its nest, and remains throughout the hours of daylight, is a complicated labyrinth of tunnels. Ejection of refuse in soil from this retreat builds up the mound frequently referred to. These mounds are, as Bailey says, characteristic of the species, and are as unmistakable as muskrat houses or beaver dams, and as carefully planned and built for as a definite purpose, home and shelter. They are, furthermore, the most notable of all kangaroo rat dwelling places. That will be followed by this prompt. Look at the 4 squares that indicate where the following sentence can be added to the passage. That prompt will be followed by a new sentence. This question wasn't in the original passage, but it will be about the same topic. For example, these tunnels are therefore an indispensable retreat for Spectabolus. Then the question will ask, where would the sentence best fit? Insert the sentence questions always look like this, so you don't need to spend a lot of time reading the prompt. Once you recognize that you are reading and insert the sentence question, you can immediately start applying our strategy for answering these questions. These questions can look difficult, but they're pretty simple to answer once we know how they work. Since there will only be one of these questions on every test, learning how to answer them is a quick way to do better on the TOEFL. Once we recognize a plug in the sentence question, we can begin applying our strategy. This strategy has 4 separate steps. 1. Find the anchor phrase. 2. Guess. 3. Scan. 4. Check. Let's go over these one by one. 1. Find the anchor phrase. In the first step of our strategy, we should only look at the new sentence provided by the question. At this stage, we shouldn't look back at the passage or ahead to the answer choices. We just want to focus on the new sentence. We want to look at the new sentence for an anchor phrase. What's an anchor phrase? It will normally be a phrase at the beginning of the sentence that explains what the sentence is about. It will begin with this or these or some other phrase followed by a noun. Examples of anchor phrases are this publication, these results, their findings, his discovery, her prediction. The new sentence in an insert the sentence question will almost always begin with an anchor phrase like this. And finding the anchor phrase is the key to answering an insert the sentence question. Let's look again at the new sentence from earlier. These tunnels are therefore an indispensable retreat for Spectabolus. The anchor phrase in this sentence is these tunnels. Once we've identified that phrase, we've completed the first step in our strategy. 2. Guess. Now that we've found our anchor phrase, we can use it to make a guess about where to put the new sentence. How do we do that? Here's an idea. When we plug the sentence into the passage, there will almost always be a sentence immediately before it. So here's an important tip for making guesses in an insert the sentence question. In an insert the sentence question, the sentence immediately before the new sentence will often mention the anchor phrase. For example, if our anchor phrase is this publication, then the sentence immediately before the new sentence will mention publications. So we can predict that the sentence goes immediately after a sentence that mentions publications. Let's try this on the sentence we looked at earlier. These tunnels are therefore an indispensable retreat for spectabulists. We said in the previous step that the anchor phrase for this sentence is these tunnels. So with the rule we just described, we can guess. This sentence will go immediately after a sentence that mentions tunnels. 3. Scan. In this step, we look at the sentence before each square and scan it to see if it fits our guess. If it doesn't, then this is the wrong place to insert the sentence. If it does, then this is the right place to insert the sentence. What do we mean by scanning? We just look through the sentence for the word in our guess. For example, if our guess says that the sentence should include the word publication, we just look at each word and see if it's publication. Notice that we can do this even if we don't understand the sentence. All we need to do is check for the word we guessed. We should go through each of the squares in order and check the sentences before them for our guess. And we shouldn't stop when we think we found the right place. Even if we think we found the right place, we want to keep checking so we can be sure. Let's see how this works. Remember that we have this passage. The burrow system or den, in which Spectabulus stores its catches of food materials, has its nest, and remains throughout the hours of daylight, is a complicated labyrinth of tunnels. Ejection of refuse and soil from this retreat builds up the mound frequently referred to. These mounds are, as Bailey says, characteristic of the species, and are as unmistakable as muskrat houses or beaver dams, and as carefully planned and built for as a definite purpose, home and shelter. They are, furthermore, the most notable of all kangaroo rat dwelling places. And we need to insert this sentence. These tunnels are therefore an indispensable retreat for Spectabulus. Our guess was that the sentence should go immediately after a sentence that mentions tunnels. Let's check each of the places to insert the sentence against that guess. For the first square, the previous sentence does mention tunnels. For the second square, the previous sentence does not mention tunnels. For the third square, the previous sentence does not mention tunnels. For the fourth square, the previous sentence does not mention tunnels. So we should plug the sentence into the place marked by the first square. That might seem really simple. It should seem simple. If we made a good guess, we can just check each of the answers by scanning the sentence before it for our guess. That's all we need to do. 4. Check. If we've done the previous steps correctly, this step should be easy. In the previous step, we selected a place to insert the new sentence. Now, we just check that the passage makes sense with the new sentence inserted into it. The test provides us with the passages we want to check. For example, we decided that the sentence, "These tunnels are therefore an indispensable retreat for Spectabulus," should be inserted in the place of the first square in the passage. Let's check. The first answer choice on the test will be the burrow system or den, in which Spectabilis stores its catches of food materials, has its nest, and remains throughout the hours of daylight in a complicated labyrinth of tunnels. These tunnels are therefore an indispensable retreat for Spectabilis. Ejection of refuse in soil from this retreat builds up the mound frequently referred to. These mounds are, as Bailey says, characteristic of the species, and are as unmistakable as muskrat houses or beaver dams, and is carefully planned and built for a definite purpose, home and shelter. They are furthermore the most notable of all kangaroo rat dwelling places. In this step, we just read through the paragraph and see if it makes sense. Normally, it is enough to read just 3 sentences: the sentence before the inserted sentence and the sentence after the inserted sentence. If these make sense, then we've inserted the sentence in the right place. What do we mean make sense? This just means that the new passage doesn't sound like nonsense. We should be able to recognize what phrases like therefore mean in the new context. If the new passage really doesn't make sense, then we should go back to the first step and begin again. We've probably made a mistake in our guess or our scanning. But if the new passage sounds okay, then we've chosen the right answer. Even at this step in the process, it's okay if we don't understand everything. As long as we follow the strategy in the previous steps, we probably have found the correct answer. Before we move on, try this yourself. Look at this passage. Harbor seals flush from floating glacial ice with increasing frequency as cruise ships approach closer than 500 meters. In Disenchantment Bay, Alaska, despite regular flushing, as ship presence increased, seals seemingly did not leave the area. But this disturbed population had a lower proportion of pups compared to an adjacent undisturbed glacial fjord. This increased concern that ship presence could be altering population functions, which, being difficult to measure, could go unnoticed for some time before a decline was detected. Here's a sentence to insert into the paragraph. That lower proportion of pups presaged a decline in the overall population of seals in the area. Where would the sentence best fit? I'll give you a moment. If you think you got the right answer, just leave your answer in the comments. Okay, let's review. Insert the sentence questions ask us to insert a new sentence into a section of the original reading passage. These questions are easy to identify since they always are presented in the same way. Once we've identified and insert the sentence question, we can apply our strategy. Find the anchor phrase, and then guess, scan, and check. Even if we don't fully understand what the passage or the new sentence means, we can still answer this question by applying our strategy. That's all for this lesson. At Prep Scholar, we help students to do their best on the TOEFL. Get our guide to TOEFL vocab at this link. And now try our complete TOEFL course at toefl.prepscholar.com. Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe for the next lesson from Prep Scholar.